Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Tuesday, May 7th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today is, you know what's so funny? We're starting with the Chariot, and I am pretty darn sure that we had the Chariot in its reversal as our first card yesterday. You see how this stuff works? We start the day with a problem. We solve the problem by the next day. That's that moment. We navigate the things. We go through those moments. We hit those hurdles. We accomplish them. I'm almost fairly positive this was the exact same card we started our day off with yesterday, except it was in its reversal. And one of the reasons we see this is because what happens when we navigate difficulties? We are able to find that path of productivity. This is what a lot of this energy is doing. And I will stress again, it is hitting on different levels depending on where you are on the frequency cycles. What have we been articulating has been happening right now for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now? What is the benchmark for navigating through path work that is energetically or emotionally triggering? The ability not to feel energetically triggered, the ability to feel that sense of reactivity, not rising up, not creating the same feelings in you. That is that form of healing. Stillness is also a form of healing. And we saw even yesterday that a lot of that energetic processing, if you will, that ability to navigate forward into spaces and places that are energetically sensitive, not feeling that reactivity point, was the benchmark in feeling that sense of stability or breakthrough that is potentially happening and occurring. So what happens, and we even saw that pause, right? That moment or opportunity, almost letting something have a little bit of that time, building on that energetic commitment of the self, right? That's the difference, even when we move forward in a path of purpose, between feeling that energetic alignment in terms of how we feel in the moment versus how we feel energetically going forward. So we see even now like that feeling of being able to navigate, to have that pause point, not to have that reactivity, to almost build that moment of being able to navigate something and feeling like it's hurting less energetically. That is now allowing for that feeling of something being able to energetically proceed going forward, right? It's almost like I keep seeing, like we kept seeing that like Band-Aid rip effect, which is like, I'll put it this way. Sometimes, this is the best way to describe it. Sometimes when you pull a Band-Aid, you don't feel anything initially. You know what I mean? You're like, boom. And then about a minute later, you're like, you know what I mean? Like that is almost what we were seeing that was happening to a certain extent energetically, which is also that moment of taking a little minute to allow something to energetically sink in. So what is happening right now? That feeling of not only going through that moment of pushing past one's own limitations, places and spaces that may have been triggering to you in the past, but not feeling that energetic trigger to a certain extent, but then even more so, not feeling any of that like aftershock, right? Just having that be that moment that almost affirms one's own sense of feeling energetically comfortable about a direction. That allows for that pathwork of proceeding forward to a certain extent. And we see even now that for a lot of that energy, that is that moment that even yesterday may have felt like a little bit more tense, may have felt like a little bit more tight. This is that feeling of movement forward that almost allows for that feeling of energetic productivity, right? Because that's that feeling of confidence, not in the fact of doing something from a place of reactivity, but almost feeling like that work, pushing forward, testing one's own limitations, navigating one's own insecurities and sensitivities, but not having them bring forth that same energetic reaction. That is that moment of energetic confidence that comes in after the fact, because that's that moment of feeling that sense of energetic accomplishment. While for masculine and feminine energy right now coming into the divine union frequency, this is that energetic equivalent, if you will, in feeling that sense of productivity, of feeling that sense of moving forward, if you will. Because what do we see was happening right now with a lot of the energy experiencing and encountering one's own insecurities, one's own inner child wounds for the first time. That is that moment of discovery. But what is the hallmark that we see is happening right now for a lot of this energy right now in the divine union frequency? These are not energies that are being triggered that are causing that moment or modality of, again, subjecting another to an energetic trigger, but rather these moments or opportunities of expressing them, of articulating them, of navigating them. And that is what is allowing for this feeling of confidence in going forward deeper into the heart of the divine union frequency right now, because that is that moment that it's like that sense of feeling like one does not need to be energetically perfect. But even in the moment of uncovering and discovering those aspects of the other that you may not necessarily immediately recognize and see, this is that energy that almost feels like those moments that someone's holding like a red flag within themselves. This is almost that moment of someone looking and saying, I don't see anything red about that. It just feels like a green flag. So we see even now, like that's that feeling of energetic confidence as someone goes forward from this point. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, that modality, that moment, that amplification point in relationality to experiencing or discovering something in separation, this is that moment of energetic productivity, if you will. Because what are we seeing is happening right now in the relationality of feeling that sense of productiveness? There's almost that moment here that we feel that expression point. We see even now, this is energy that is moving into new energetic connections with a lot of care, a lot of conscientiousness, a lot of energetic pause. And that same sense of energetic pause, if you will, that same conscientiousness, that is what is allowing for something that feels very much like that sense of energetic breakthrough, because that moment of recognizing and seeing another energetic frequency that is navigating something in the same way, that is that moment that's almost that amplification of building confidence right now. So this is either a lot of energy right now that is working towards new energetic connections and feeling that sense of momentum that's picking up in some new energetic connections, or this is energy that is moving towards their manifestation goals and just feeling that burst of confidence today as they proceed forward from that direction. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our Ace of Wands. A lot of just getting work done, a lot of just putting that nose to the grindstone, if you will, today. This is a lot of just like keeping that focus, keeping that determination, keeping that energetic drive, if you will, that almost allows for that amplification of feeling the full strength of what you're trying to put your full force and energy in right now. I'm not surprised to see this type of energy today. We're just starting this new moon cycle. So we've got a lot of that energy of just putting in that work, putting in that effort and degree, especially with this Taurus energy. This is a lot of that hard work coming to the surface, right? Don't speak anything that you can't just do, right? So we see even now like a lot of that energy, putting those words into action today is happening across all of the frequencies. Masculine and feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. In separation, this could be a lot of that focus towards the manifestation goal. So anything that you're trying to manifest today, this could be a lot of that care and effort and determination that you're putting into practice here. So if this is like a place where you're manifesting new energetic connections, I could see here that there'd be a lot of work today in trying to build forth in that point of building those new energetic connections. If this is something where a lot of your focus and priority right now is the pathwork of professionality, this could be a day that you're putting a lot of that energetic effort in terms of what you're trying to get done. This is all going to be a lot about like that prioritization point in relationality to the manifestation, driving you forward in that direction today. And that's a lot of that nose to the grindstone energy across all of the frequencies. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here our Page of Wands. And what we like, I gotta say, a lot of this energy right now in separation, a lot of new communication, a lot of new energetic connections that are potentially occurring right now. We see this even here. There's a lot of that energetic conversation that is occurring. Masculine and feminine energy. Not surprised to see this. Why? Because we just came out of that moment, that retrograde period that was really helping the energy set their intention about how to move forward. A lot of the feminine energy from if going through that retrograde period felt that sense of not going backwards, really building forth, taking that moment of setting the energetic standard on anything that occurred from the past to navigate their direction going forward. And that's the reason that the feminine is feeling that wave of productivity, that wave of determination today, because this is a lot of that feminine energy just really wanting to, like, I want to say, like, take that energetic lesson and put it into practice sooner rather than later, right? Because that's almost that feeling that we have of like experiencing that sense of energetic eagerness, right? The sense of doing something in something new in a new way that almost creates that sense of giddiness, even if it's something that we feel like we've done before. Because for a lot of this energy in separation, even in building these new connections, having that moment of putting some kind of new energetic practice into play as you do so is what is creating that sense of energetic excitement. And these energies right now in separation, this is that moment that almost feels like a lot of authentic conversations that are coming through, because this is energy that's almost seeking energy that is also experiencing things in the same way, that is thinking in the same way that someone thinks, that does something in the same way that someone does, right? These are energies that are in separation, and they're not just seeking energetic connection. They're looking for true energetic alignment. They're trying to find the energy that feels like they are in alignment to themselves. And what happens when we're trying to build forth an energy that is trying to build forth from a place of having alignment? It requires that sense of energetic authenticity. So we see even now for both masculine and feminine energy, this is taking a little bit of a different take if you're making these new energetic connections. Feminine energy, not feeling that modality of having to effectively or energetically change for a masculine, but almost looking towards a masculine to see if they have that same sense of energetic vulnerability in terms of expressing their wants, their needs, their drives, and their desires. Masculine, trying to build forth and recognizing and identifying that if you want to build forth and manifest your goals with the feminine, it's really important that you share the same manifestation goals, right? So we see that that's the masculine doing everything they can to be as authentic and vulnerable towards the feminine on that path to make sure that there is that alignment in relationality to what you seek in order to be able to move towards what you're hoping to find. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is the energetic equivalent of feeling like you found that to a certain extent. And a lot of that energy here, there's a lot of vulnerability that's coming to the surface right now, even for that energy that is coming into the divine union frequency right now. Because what happens in the moment that you see that experience of showing someone your vulnerabilities, showing someone your insecurities, what happens in those moments that does not create a state or space of energetic rejection, or those moments where we don't subject another to our unhealed parts, that immediately offers the opportunity of that energetic healing coming into play. And we see that even now for masculine and feminine energy, that modality or that ability, that sense of healing, that's like what allows for that path work, because that's that moment that, again, you're holding the wounds for another, but you're feeling that express possibility of something being energetically different. And that can feel very energetically tender. But that tenderness, that amplification of that energetic softness, that's almost what allows for that sense of breakthrough, because these are energies that are coming into the divine union frequency, and just being in alignment with someone who holds your energetic wounds with the same conscientiousness as you would theirs creates that moment or opportunity of almost feeling that healing that is already starting to take effect, even in the sense of not even doing anything around it, right? Masculine and feminine energy right now that is in the heart of the divine union frequency, that ability, that modality, that is something that we are seeing to a certain extent that feels, again, much like that moment of observing and identifying what happens in that moment that you're doing that work. You're pushing past your own comfort zone. You're navigating something that feels like an energetic weakness point, but it's not creating that reactivity point in you. That is that moment of feeling that sense of easement, because it's that moment of experiencing something and not having it create the same energetic reaction in you. Right? And that in itself is almost that moment of feeling that same kind of healing taking effect. The only difference is the energy coming into divine union is navigating something with a point of conscientiousness and caution, while the energy at the heart of it is moving forward to a certain degree on that. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here the 6 of Wands in its reversal. This is why, I gotta say, there's a lot of sensitivity coming up today. A lot of sensitivity around doubts, fears, anxieties rising to the energetic surface. But what's nice about them is the fact that this doesn't feel like a moment or opportunity that is creating that sense of anxiety or doubt or fear. Rather, what we see is almost that moment of being able to confront something from a place or a space that you're able to be very authentic about it. That authenticity, that expression of the doubt and fear, as opposed to being into a reactive space around it, that creates that energetic center, if you will, because that is that moment that almost feels like that express opportunity of being able to speak openly and clearly about something that you may have felt like in the past was much more difficult for you. So we see even now that moment almost feels like that point of energetic breakthrough. So there may be a lot of that energetic feeling of apology today. There may be that moment of feeling of the energetic catharsis. There may be a lot of looking at the past experiences of self. A lot of healing of childhood wounds today, particularly in spaces or places of understanding and recognizing how something about that childhood self may have been impacted and affected, and it's almost been creating that echo effect moving forward, right? This is a lot of internal energy that we're seeing today. But again, it might be a very quiet energy because there's a lot of productivity here. There's a lot of tangible productivity and almost putting that in a state or space that feels like it is almost the creative expression of something to a certain degree that helps articulate what one is energetically feeling. I'm not surprised to say that because sometimes we do a lot of that work. Sometimes that inner child healing is such that it's hard to articulate it in words. It's easier almost to put it in a place that almost allows for a little bit of that self-referential aspect. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into the divine union frequency, this is that energetic equivalent of looking at something that you've been carrying that you haven't felt like the ability to heal in the past, and suddenly feeling the possibility of being able to energetically heal something. Why? Because we see even now that a lot of this energy, just seeing someone holding something in a way that no one has held something for you before, being able to have that mindfulness, that conscientiousness, that ability of seeing that immediately allows for the opportunity of some kind of energetic breakthrough here. Masculine and feminine energy, specifically doing that work or facilitating forward in that direction. That is that moment or opportunity that we are seeing that amplifies that. It's like what happens, as I said, what happens in the moment that instead of reacting to an insecurity or something that feels like a sensitivity, we just articulate it and show it to someone. And we give them that ability to hold it for us in the same way that we would want it held. It immediately opens that question of saying, is it something that you need to carry? Because even that moment of almost saying to someone, here's the wound that someone else gave me, and someone being like, I will be very careful with that wound that someone else gave you, right? That is that moment that suddenly someone says, is that something that we actually need to carry? Because you're already showing me that evidence that is not a wound that I'm going to effectively or energetically experience again. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation, a lot of that work, a lot of that effort, a lot of that energy is building bridges in relationality about talking about what didn't work, identifying what was the problem, articulating again, utilizing again that same sense of energetic discernment, because this is not energy that objectifies or takes anything that they've experienced and they just push it out of the self. That is that moment that almost shows that mindfulness in self-assessment, requiring that point of observing what one feels like you could facilitate change in from the present versus what you've energetically experienced in the past. So even now, that ability of these energies encountering one another, new potential opportunities of connection, talking about those experiences, but not just talking about them, but talking about them in similar ways, having experienced something in a similar way, almost feeling that kinship that we experience when someone, it's not the fact that we go through something that is exactly the same, but almost feeling that alignment in terms of how someone experienced something versus how we ourselves experienced it. That is that moment that allows for that energetic breakthrough point. Because that's that moment of feeling like you're really truly talking to someone that shares that same similar point of view or similar aspect. So that's why we see even now, if these are new energetic connections, they're moving very slowly, but they're almost building momentum. Because it's almost like the circuitry is like making those energetic connections first. While for masculine and feminine energy, if this is pathwork of reconciliation, this is again not just pathwork of reconciliation wherein someone's coming back to someone and saying, let's just do everything we just did over again and have it go the same exact way. This is the moment or energy or opportunity of someone really being able to articulate what they were doing energetically wrong, and almost articulating the fact that they've already put into practice what they're changing to try to make something energetically better that allows for that new opportunity or new path to be able to be carved, even if these are energies that are coming back together. But again, this is like, even this is feeling so energetically new that this is like someone who's like turned like a completely new leaf to a certain extent. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here, not surprised to see it if this card looks familiar, this is the card that we ended yesterday's reading on. Same position, 4 of Cups in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in separation. This feels like a moment. This is something that feels like it is energetically new. Taking a new energetic approach, even if these are new connections that are forming, the ability to take a different approach to something is what is effectively allowing for that sense of breakthrough. Because that's that modality that we're experiencing right now, that it doesn't feel like these energies are going back to the drawing board, right? It doesn't have that feeling of going back to the drawing board, if you will, because these energies are putting in that application of practice, doing something in a way that they haven't before. Utilizing those energetic standards from the past to lay out the groundwork in terms of how they choose to move forward, that is allowing for that sense even now. It's a little bit of that wait and see, but it almost immediately feels like a bit of that breakthrough, because again, this is not energy that is moving forward with a sense of fearing energetic rejection. The energy that's healing is not the energy that moves forward into connections with the fear of energetic rejection. This is energy that simply accepts that if you move from a place of authenticity and your authenticity moves someone away from you, that is not a moment that one should feel like you are being energetically rejected. That is a moment that feels like you are just looking for someone that is in alignment with you and you have not energetically found it yet. So we see even now, like that in itself, that perspective of almost utilizing that pathwork of discernment, not wanting to be energetically available for everyone, but almost looking for that special energetic connection that feels like it is in alignment with you. That's like a little bit of that discernment that we see is happening, both for masculine and feminine energy right now. But what's beautiful about it is it's requiring both energies to push a little bit out of their comfort zone. How is the feminine doing it? Feminine energy looking at things more from a pathwork of energetic discernment. Not necessarily looking and feeling like one is trying to like energetically bring themselves into a place of being adaptable and accommodating towards a masculine energy, but almost looking towards the masculine with that sense of trying to ascertain if they have the same manifestation goals. While for masculine energy right now in separation, this is that moment of being as authentic as possible towards feminine for the hope of being able to build forth with a feminine whose manifestation goals match your own. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is that energetic equivalent of having found that to a certain degree. And we see even now that for a lot of that energy, that modality, that moment, that feeling of security in relationality to showing oneself parts of the other that you haven't before, and feeling that safety net of someone carrying that energetic wound for you with the mindfulness that you would aspire and desire that they would carry it. That is that moment that feels like an energetic breakthrough. It feels like a moment of catharsis. It feels like a moment that suddenly the possibility is opening of not having to carry an energetic wound anymore, because it's immediately that experience of feeling in the immediacy of the moment the situation and circumstance that is the opposite to what you experienced that may have caused the wound in the first place. And this is not energy that's like rushing forward in that way to heal something, but almost being able to carry the wounds of another is one that these are gratefully doing, but also feeling at the same time that hope and aspiration of taking that fear, taking that insecurity away from someone. It's not the requirement of staying in partnership, but it is certainly a part of that aspirational hope. The energy in the heart of the divine union is moving forward on that hope. The energy in the heart of the divine union frequency has been navigating forward in those spaces and places, and it's hard. It's difficult. It's reactionary. It creates those moments that, again, it almost takes that carefulness or that gentleness of compassion and care. Because if these are moments that typically, those are those moments that you would typically feel that insecurity or feel that vulnerability, but you're moving with that energy that's the exception to the rule, that you have that implicit trust with, that ability of discovering that moment and not feeling that reactivity point. That is almost that moment that suddenly feels like an energetic breakthrough. Because it's not that stillness is like helping you kind of confront the energetic feelings beyond the emotionality that may have created that like protective wall in the first place. Continuing to get clarity on these cards right now between our Chariot in combination with our Ace of Wands in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. We've got here our Ace of Cups in its reversal. Today, I'm not surprised to see it, guys. It's Taurus season. Self-care is key. Self-care is key today. A lot of that. Just a lot. I got to stress. A lot of products. The only thing I want to warn everybody about today, because this is so much of this like nose to the grindstone kind of energy today, make sure that you don't like overly exhaust yourself. Because this is so much energy today that's like so driving forward, really just wanting to put that like putting like the pedal to the metal here, just like navigating through something with like so much tangibility. This is that type of work today. I see this is a type of energetic equivalent of just like working yourself to exhaustion today. So please make sure to be drinking your water. Please make sure to be giving yourself breaks. Please be sure to give yourself naps. Give yourself all like this is that moment that like we want to be very like a little conscientious of today, because this, I gotta say this, and this, I'm not surprised to see this again with this Taurus energy. This is giving me a little bit of that energy today, like work hard, play hard as well. So like, this is either the type of energetic frequency of someone working themselves like just till they're ragged today, or someone who's like, I'm going to work myself to my ragged and then I'm allowed to give myself a bigger treat. In fact, the amount I work is like completely inverse to how much of the treat I can give myself. Just remember, like maybe just middle ground today. Maybe just middle ground today. But again, masculine and feminine energy, we see that feels like this is a lot of catharsis that's happening right now in the heart of the divine union frequency, right? Because this is that feeling of energetic breakthrough that almost creates that like rush of emotions on the other side of it, right? That's like the floodgate opening to a certain extent here. But that's also because a lot of that energy is feeling, it's feeling like that influx in relationality to how much you energetically care about like what you're doing right now, and that motivation and pathwork in terms of really like putting that energetic care into play as it relates to how you're trying to navigate something. While for masculine and feminine energy, that is coming into the divine union frequency right now, this is that immediate equivalent. I told you, this is the energetic feeling. The minute that someone holds something with the mindfulness, the minute someone else holds a wound that someone else gave you, with the mindfulness and care that you yourself would aspire and desire to be held, is the minute you almost ask yourself, is that something that needs to be carried in the first place, right? So we see even now a lot of that may feel like that emotional expression. It's like that moment of being like, if I'm happy, why am I feeling so upset? Because it's that moment of, again, feeling something there that like, that's like the energetic floodgate of having to navigate something that you're feeling internally that another is bearing, but also not being able to control the fact that you energetically feel that way. While for masculine and feminine energy right now in separation, a lot of that pathwork in relationality to this type of energy today is that feeling. This is like I gotta stress, if these are energies that are finding each other now in separation, because I see that there's a lot of new energetic connections that are happening right now in separation. There's something here that almost like feels like there's so many, these energies are being so authentic to one another in separation, that it's almost that moment that you're feeling that eagerness to like really want to rush forward. And what are these energies doing right now? They're pulling themselves back. They're pulling themselves back. They're trying not to rush in, right? Because that's that moment of not wanting to get energetically ahead of yourself. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Ace of Wands and its reversal and our Page of Wands. People be meeting people. People be meeting people. That's spring fever. This is spring fever. Look at this. Look at this. What is this? What is this? May I please have one card to clarify, please? One card to clarify. Clarification coming through. This is that inner, this is so funny. I'm sorry I'm laughing, but it's that feeling, right? Like this is the energy that's like feeling that excitement. This is the energy that's potentially feeling excitement in some of these new energetic connections that are happening. What are these energies doing? Because they're in that like that Taurus, also in that like that holding space of the healing process. They're like, no, like they're going like that. They're going like, no, like they're the excitement and the eagerness, but then also with that like patience of being like, don't get ahead of yourself. Don't get ahead of yourself, right? Because that's that feeling of energetic anticipation, where there's like that feeling of energetic passion, but also like that moment of like, I should, but I shouldn't. I should, but I should. You know what I mean? Like it's like that. It's, you know, it's May. You know, like, well, for masculine and feminine and you know, for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union. This is that expansion moment in energetic compassion. This is passion turning into something deeper, right? If these are energies that had that energetic passion that brought them forth, this is the sense of energetic compassion coming into play. Because what happened in the last few weeks in relationality to these energies, starting to see each other for like their insecurities, starting to see those parts of the self that they don't typically see. There's almost that moment of wanting to come into that point of hiding from that. And these energies are actually like building bridges through them. They're holding space. They're almost saying to one another, there's nothing here I don't see that I'm not necessarily, like everything you're showing me just feels like an energetic yes. So what happens in those moments when we show someone or someone sees our insecurity and someone says, everything you showed me feels like an energetic yes. That's that moment that compassion starts to fuel something, because that's that moment that, again, these are the energies hitting that sweet spot of feeling the passion for one another, but also knowing that what they feel goes beyond the extent of what is just passionate and moves into that compassionate range. Someone who doesn't just aspire and value you for all of the good parts, but for all the parts that you find are harder to energetically love, all the parts of the self that you find are harder to show, all those parts of the self that you feel energetically insecure about. The passion drives us forward. The compassion holds space for all the rest. So we see even now that a lot of that energy, holding the wound of another and saying, I hope one day I can show you that we can heal that. That's the element of time that's entering here, that's really building into that heart of compassion and intimacy. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in the heart of the divine union frequency, a lot of this energy is releasing that. This is a release process for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now. Because if this is something that you were holding, that someone gave you, that you weren't even supposed to be energetically carrying, this is that moment that almost feels like that release, because it's almost that moment of looking towards one another and saying, you know, this thing I've been holding on to, I think I'm finally able to let go of it, right? And these energies are doing that not for the sake of the other, but feeling that sense of energetic support as they do so. They're doing it in tandem. They're doing it together. And that ability of doing it together, it's not the fact that the other is doing it for you, but it's making it energetically easier as you go, because that's that moment of feeling that sense of support and trust as you do something that is hard, that builds into that sense of like recognizing that feeling of timeliness as you do so. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Page of Wands in combination with our Six of Wands in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification, here it is again. A lot of this hot and cold today. We've got here our Knight of Swords in its upright. So even for the energy right now, I gotta say, one of the only hurdles that we're seeing right now may have to do with energetic timing. Right? I'm seeing here a lot, the feminine energy moving a lot more slowly right now, building into that sense of, and we're not surprised to see this. We always see this between these energies. The feminine energy wanting, like when the feminine energy is feeling that energetic confidence point, what occurs? Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Feminine energy slows down. Feminine energy slows things down as they're moving towards something, because that's that moment of like slowness, right? That's that moment that creates that. This is like one of those it's like the funny thing about these two energetic, these signatures. When feminine energy is feeling that sense of determination, it slows it down. What does masculine do when they feel that energetic determination? Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Masculine wants to pick up the pace. Masculine wants to move faster. So we see here, this could be a little bit, this even across all the frequencies today, this could be a little bit of a problem area here, because this is the masculine wanting to rush forward. This is the feminine wanting to pull back, right? So we see even now this could lead to a little bit of energetic clumsiness right now in this modality. Make sure you're using your words so you're not misunderstood today, because I do see a couple things here. That I feel like things can go in the practical space today. A lot of good stuff happening. In the space of timing, in the space of communicating things around this could feel like a moment that there could be some clumsiness in relationality to timing situations here, because I see that there's a lot of emotionality here, and it's bringing out different characteristics between the energetic frequencies. For feminine, it's feminine wanting to slow something down, and masculine wanting to move forward. Both of these energies wanting to do something, but again, in different ways. Might be something that needs to be a hurdle today. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency. Again, if these are spaces or places that feel energetically sensitive, that feel like they're creating that insecurity space, this is that moment, or this is that modality that we're seeing that almost, creates that point in recognizing and understanding that, like, even now, this could be that moment of the masculine really like wanting to charge forward and continuing forward in this work, especially if these are like, if these are sensitivities or these are breakthroughs that the masculine's having. This is a masculine that just kind of wants to continue forward full tilt, while this is feminine feeling those same breakthroughs, but almost like creating that resistance point, creating that slowness to a certain degree. Both of these energies moving in the same direction, just in different ways. Masculine and feminine energy right now that are in separation, that are coming into divine union, that is that energetic equivalent of the masculine. I want to say this, not feeling like they want to come in and feel like they have to energetically protect the feminine, right? These are the energies still wanting to navigate seeing someone else's insecurities in different ways. For the masculine, this is almost the masculine energy that wants to, like, again, that point of the masculine seeing a wound that the feminine may have energetically carried from past experiences, What does it create in the masculine? That desire to rush forth, that desire to do something, to help energetically heal it. What is that masculine doing? That's not masculine that's like following through on that. That's masculine saying, there's the thing that the masculine aspires to do, and there's the way that the feminine aspires masculine to carry something, right? So that's something that's a little bit of that emotional overwhelm energetically here. While for feminine energy right now, seeing a masculine energy in that modality, like that's that moment with the feminine of feeling again that vibration or frequency of compassion and care, because that's almost the feminine like masculine saying like, you know what I would do about that. You know what I mean? Like taking that like that bigger approach, and the feminine being like, I recognize that, I appreciate that, but that's not, you and I don't move in the same ways. Like that is again that moment that even in those spaces and places creates that sense of healing. It creates that sense of like compassion, because that's the feminine. Again, this isn't a masculine that moves towards the feminine and says like, I'm going to do something, that I know is best for you. That's the feminine feeling that sense of the masculine, almost saying to the feminine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to you. I want what's best for you. I want what's best for you. And that's almost the masculine saying. And so feminine seeing that, being like, masculine was saying, I want what's best for you, but this is what I would do. Like even the masculine being able to articulate like that, that is that moment that almost feels like that sense or that space where in the masculine, the feminine feels that act of energetic compassion, but also that sense of a masculine that moves with the feminine, that follows the feminine's guidance, that moves, that listens and utilizes discernment in relationality to how they move and what they do. That feels like that sense of productivity. Now, masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation. This is that beautiful frequency. I just see that a lot of energy right now in separation is just coming into like a lot of this energy, just making a lot of new energetic connections right now. This is a lot of productivity right now in separation. And a lot of it is almost like that pathwork of resistance, feeling some kind of energetic excitement from something and trying to pull back to a certain extent. It's almost creating that moment or modality wherein we're recognizing and experiencing these are energies that are trying not to get their hopes up energetically. But they're automatically coming from that place of authenticity. It's leading to a lot more of these faster, authentic connections. Right? So continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Six of Wands in its reversal in combination with our Four of Cups in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Six of Cups in its reversal. Why are these energies not trying to get ahead of themselves? Because these energies in separation are still recovering from unhealed karmic connections. Masculine and feminine energy right now, doing that work, navigating that productivity, experiencing those moments, building those energetic bridges, but also being very energetically mindful of not wanting to repeat the lessons of the past to a certain extent. That sense of being energetically mindful to a certain degree, that is what is creating that moment or opportunity of utilizing that pathwork of discernment. Because we see even now the feminine energy taking that slower approach if in separation, even if these are new energetic connections, taking a bit more of that wait and see, right? Not wanting to get ahead of themselves. Masculine too, working into that state or space. This is the masculine wanting to move forward a bit more quickly, but also navigating that state or space of being energetically in alignment to the feminine's timeline. Because we see even now, these energies are not only navigating towards each other from a state of healing, but they're trying to be very energetically mindful in not repeating the past karmic lessons that may have caused them to be in the point of having to heal in the first place. While masculine and feminine energy right now, this is one of those moments, if these are energies that are bringing in wounds into the divine union that were experienced or created from outside the divine union, the minute someone holds something in a way that they're energetically mindful of it, immediately creates that sense of being able to reconsider whether you need to carry it in the first place. So we see even now that for a lot of that energy, navigating forward, it feels a little triggering. because these are potentially energies that are working over or working through some of those experiences in the past that caused those wounds in the first place. Because what happens in the moment that we experience something different? It reminds us of those states and the places from the past that caused those wounds in the first place. So we see even now, like this is hard, because this is almost that moment of like the even now energetically, this is some of the energy in coming into divine union, looking at something and being like, I didn't realize I had to heal from that. I didn't even see something in the way, because now even being able to experience something that is being navigated and addressed in a different way, it's like it changes your own energetic perspective. While for masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, that equivalent, this is something that you're doing right now intentionally. You're doing this very purposefully. You're putting that purpose of intention into play. You're working through that energetic progression. And this is why we see even now a lot of that energy navigating through, feeling that same sense. Like there is that moment I'm even seeing in the heart of the divine union right now, facing those energetic fears, looking at what is unhealed, asking yourself if there is that possibility of healing something. But it's not healing something by taking the same approach from the past, but it's almost looking at something from a new perspective, because you've been doing this work in not feeling so energetically triggered in relationality to facing something. Remember, that is why this path work was being engaged upon in the first place. Being able to confront something and see something within the self creates the inner strength to be able to navigate forward in a way that allows for a better productive outcome going forward. And it's all that moment of looking at something and saying, I can see a better energetic outcome, because I'm not going to allow myself to be energetically triggered and having to face or experience something. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Ace of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Temperance card. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now. This is like, whew, this is some heavy energy today. You know, this is a lot of like deep wounds coming up to the surface. You know, a lot of like that experience or like energy of navigating and unpacking like pain, like wounds, like those moments. Like this is that moment. Like this is, I have to say, and this is why we see even now, like I feel like a lot of energy is just putting a lot of that into their work today. Like just letting it be channeled into the state or space of like the tangible, because that's something that almost feels like that opportunity or moment that something is being experienced, but you're able to navigate it in a way that it feels, I want to say, it's that energetic overwhelm that almost feels like a heart expansion, even at the moment of something energetically hurting. You know what I mean? Like that is that moment that, again, it's like, it's looking at something and feeling and saying like something hurts, but you can carry it. You know what I mean? Like it's looking at something and facing it, but almost saying, I can energetically navigate that. That is something that can be carried. And we see even now, like that ability to do so, it feels very energetically or emotionally overwhelming. But again, this is not feeling like, this is that ability that is like almost looking at something here and feeling the weight of energetic time. Like almost looking and feeling that sense of saying like something will get easier with the addition of time being added. You know what I mean? And that's really beautiful here, because that's some of that slowness, that's some of that perspective that's almost like helping to amplify the feeling that one is having in the moment versus thinking about that bigger picture, right? I'll put it this way. This feels a lot like that moment of almost saying like that sense of saying something might need to hurt now, but feels like it's energetically best in the long term. You know, like that's the type of energy that we're seeing here. So we see even now, that's the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency that is almost challenging themselves in that way, right? undergoing that path work that feels like they're navigating their own insecurities, or they're navigating their own wounds, but almost doing so in a way that almost feels like the energetic timeliness of trusting in the connection, that feels like that is the right time to be able to do that type of work, right? While for masculine and feminine energy right now, it is the opposite. For the energy coming into the divine union frequency, this is seeing something that is energetically painful and holding it for the moment, but looking and saying, I feel like there's something here that given time I can work to heal with you, right? While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, this is that energetic excitement or overwhelm that's potentially happening now in new energetic connections, either energetic connections that are coming into like brand new energetic connections, or energy that is truly on a healing path, if this is path work of restoration. And in both of these, there's a lot of compassion. These are energies that are building new neural pathways or new energetic connections with one another, building that bridge of compassion first, articulating on the experiences that you've had or you've held, and almost feeling that sense of wanting to like give someone energetic support. Like that's almost that moment that even now it feels like there's some kind of alignment there, because these are not energies that are just feeling passion for one another in the new energetic connections. They're feeling compassion as well. So that's either, again, the energy that feels the compassion in building an authentic connection with someone, or that duality of passion and empathy, or these are energies that are coming into rectification and healing modalities with someone that is able to look back with empathetic compassion and say, I see what I did energetically wrong. I understand where my priorities were off. I know what I need to change, and I'm sorry. And that ability to like almost amplify the ability to do so in the moment, it feels energetically overwhelming, but then it almost allows for that point of breakthrough, because that's that moment of taking that, again, that wait and see approach with that time will tell, if you will. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Temperance card and our Knight of Swords. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Four of Wands in its reversal. Now that's the thing about this right now. What we're seeing, and this is again, navigating hurdles right now. Addressing these, like there's a lot of this moment here of like holding grief, feeling that weight of energetic frustration, working through that feeling of energetic, disappointment, or navigating through that to a certain extent. There's still a lot here to untangle, especially why are these energies in separation, moving with so much determination? Because again, there's that feeling that they're still navigating that heartbreak. They're almost in that point, or that perspective of not wanting to move in a direction that doesn't feel like it is truly for them, just for the sake of their own momentary feelings. So we see even now, like that energy, the healed energy, is almost mitigating their own excitement, if you will. Like trying to say to themselves, I want to see if I continue to feel this way, or if this is just that momentary feeling, right? And we see even now masculine energy and separation, feeling that rush or that need to want to rush forward right now, holding back, holding back to a certain extent, trying to amplify patience, right? Not wanting to, again, like almost energetically block their own blessings by moving towards something with so much, like, again, what did we say that some of this masculine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to? What is a lot of that work that the masculine has been doing at this time? Masculine energy has recognized to a certain extent that there's been some past path work where their own conviction, like their own determination and drive to move towards something in a degree, can sometimes energetically blind them from the empathy or the energetic empathy of those around them. So this is the masculine energy that's feeling that path work of purpose, that's feeling that energetic excitement, that's feeling that level or degree of like, navigating that feeling, not wanting to energetically repeat the mistakes of the past, is almost building that sense of like, I want to say, this can feel like a little bit energetically frustrating for some of the masculine energy right now, particularly a lot of the masculine energy right now in separation, which is why we may see that a lot of the masculine energy may be channeling this right now into their work, because this is the energy that wants to like channel that into something, as opposed to trying to energetically like move towards something too quickly and feel like they're creating that state or space of feeling that energetic anxiety coming into play. While for feminine energy right now, in separation, that modality, that same experience energetically to a certain extent, this is also feeling that sense of potential new energetic connections with masculine, but articulating upon them. There even could be a lot of this, like, there's a lot of this path work even now with feminine that I see even here. This is potentially the feminine articulating a lot of the experiences of new energetic connections in separation, of what they've experienced by way of the energetic connections of the past, and navigating forward from that moment or modality with the perception and clarity of experiencing something that feels like it wasn't in alignment, because the feminine energy wasn't, and this is the beauty of like a lot of this feminine in separation, not externalizing a lot of that feeling onto the masculine, but almost the feminine feeling like the ability to stay prioritized in terms of what it is that they aspire and desire may have been more of that challenging space in the past that built that sense, or built that moment of the feminine almost identifying and helping the masculine recognize how they may have like their own level or degree of responsibility in relationality to what they experienced versus how something energetically turned up. So a lot of these energies right now in separation, like there's a lot of that feeling of like holding space for one another as you experience those energetic stories in relationality to what you aspired for and what you experienced, right? Masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union, that energetic equivalent that we're seeing to a certain degree, this is the energy that is feeling the compassion. And what happens in the moment that you feel energetic compassion? It immediately creates clarity in the spaces and places that you didn't feel that, right? So we see even now that for a lot of this energy that's moving into the divine union frequency, there's almost that moment that it feels like you're getting clarity on something from the past that didn't work in the way that you may have aspired and desired, simply due to feeling the alignment of the energetic the energetic counterpart that moves in alignment with you, right? Like sometimes we can't have that clarity point until we have the counterpoint to see it. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy going through that, it's painful, because it does feel to a certain extent like old wounds will get opened up. It's very common for old wounds to get opened up at the time that you enter divine union, because you're experiencing something in such a way that you have to re-experience what happened that wasn't that at the moment that you energetically receive it. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, this is the energy in the heart of the divine union confronting those moments, navigating those experiences together. And what's interesting about this is for a lot of the energy right now in the heart of the divine union, you're turning your attention towards those spaces and places that may have created those wounds, that may have created those hurts, because it's that moment of objectivity, that ability to encounter something and not feel the reactivity point, that's almost allowing you to address and tackle something in a new and different way. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy right now in the heart of the divine union frequency, that's that moment that feels like you're having an energetic breakthrough that's going to allow you to address something in a way that you haven't addressed it before. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Knight of Swords in combination with our Six of Cups in its reversal. Clarification coming through right now with, we've got here our Hangman. And I have to stress, one of the things about today, this energy today, it's a little back and forth. I'm just going to be very open about it. I mean, and I think that, and I think that it's a lot of that. It's I'll put it this way. It feels like pathwork of possibility, pathwork of opportunity, but there's a lot of resistance. There's like a lot of resistance in relationality to that like movement. It feels like moving through something in a very energetically heavy way, right? A lot of that being guided forth right now with one's intention. And I see even now that for a lot of this is because like this is what happens when we're navigating and we're trying to heal. And like a lot of this energy, I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of this energy, even in the divine union frequency, is moving in this way to heal unhealed karmic connections, right? And when I say healing unhealed karmic connections, I don't mean healing unhealed karmic connections like going back to something for the sake of like reconnecting with someone else. I mean healing the unhealed karmic connections and saying, what can I do to heal something that someone created in me that wasn't mine in the first place? What can I do to do that if I'm only doing it in a one-sided way? Do you see that? This is the energy that's almost saying like beyond the sense of being able to repair or restore something with something that feels like it is positive or productive. What can I do to navigate forth in that way energetically if I've come into that state or space of recognizing that there's something there that cannot be energetically healed, right? This is a lot of that energy in the heart of the divine union frequency addressing this by navigating through the insecurities and the wounds that those experiences may have created, all for the sake of trying to move and understand if it's something that can be released or something that you're still energetically holding because it creates some sense or state of value for you. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into the divine union frequency, this is the act of energetically holding something that someone else created in another, but with the mindfulness of how one would aspire and desire that you hold it. And that's hard. Like we see even now, that's a little energetically difficult because that's that moment that feels like, it feels like a little uncomfortable, right? That's that thing. That's that difference between how we might want to address something versus how we aspire and know someone wants something addressed. And we see even now like that moment of discernment is one that like opens the energetic question of saying like, it's not the fact that something there is necessary. It's not the fact that something there is too difficult. It's all that energy that we're seeing to a certain extent that feels like that amplification in holding something and saying, I can hold that energetically indefinitely. But almost the observation that you're giving something to the counterpart that it wasn't theirs that they created, but they're holding for you. Like even then it kind of opens that question of asking oneself, is there something there that can be healed in time? While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, a lot of that energy in separation right now, this is that moment that feels like a lot of these energies are building new energetic connections by talking about the unhealed karmic connections from the past. You know, and what's beautiful about that to a certain degree is like, again, these are not energies that are articulating that everything has been like hunky-dory from every moment until the time that they've encountered one another. These are energies that are almost like being very open and honest about the experiences from the past, about the fact of feeling something was left open-ended. But even in that modality, we see that pathwork of purpose is not energy that is saying, I want to aspire to go back to that at some point. There's something there that it's not completely resolved. These are energies that are almost saying, these energies are completely resolved because they left me energetically hanging. Because that's the energy that's almost saying like the fact or the state or the space, if there's something here that feels like it's unresolved, that's the energy that's almost saying I'm committing not to move forward with energy that allows for things that disappears when things are unresolved for the sake of being able to continue to build forth on that energetic connection. This is the energy that almost says I want the energy that articulates their care by leaning in when things get energetically difficult, not leaning out, right? And so that's that even now when these energies almost articulate that to one another, that's that moment of like feeling two things coming together and like boom, like it's like the spark that forms, because that's that moment that feels like, again, that alignment of someone saying, like, what was that fundamental point? Being like, I lean in when things get difficult. I don't energetically lean out. So now we find that these energies that lean in when things get difficult, like that's almost like the mile marker boundary that these energies are expressing, that are feeling like that sense of being conditional in the relationality of energetically staying through something. And we see even now that a lot of that energy feels like they're building that bond of connection, even in the experiences wherein they feel like that didn't occur, right? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Three of Swords in combination with our Four of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Three of Cups in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy. One of the things I like that we're seeing right now in relationality to the new energetic connections that are occurring, is that sense of prioritization, is that sense of, focus in relationality to holding space for something right now and feeling that sense of prioritization of path and purpose. These are energies right now that we are seeing to a certain extent that are finding those new energetic connections. But a lot of it, I want to say, this is why I see so much of this as bittersweet right now. Because I feel like a lot of this energy right now is building forth in points of closure, even in the new energetic connections that are forming. Because again, closure does not come back towards someone. Closure is that step forward away from something. And I see even now it's hard because these energies, they're still in that grieving process to a certain extent. You can see that. It's not like they would aspire and desire to be in this modality right now. But they're almost, again, these are energies in separation. They're saying like, I'm choosing the energy that prioritizes the energetic connection. Right? And that's the energy that almost, again, if these were energies that like feel like there was something that was like, put some distance on or put some space on, or something that was like given some energetic distance or some hope on. This is the energy that almost just feels like that in itself. Like this feels like the energy that feels like there's been enough time that's experienced here, that almost someone feels like that sense of like really feeling the closure point and being able to look at something and say to oneself like the time has created the energetic closure to a certain extent. While for masculine, and that moment, like even building upon that in that energetic connection, like they're articulating the multiple ways you tried to energetically fix something and always having the same result, or feeling something of someone feeling like someone like created some time and space to fix, like heal something, but that was something that felt like it was open-ended. Like that is almost that point that we identify that these energies are basically saying, like there's that desire of saying, I don't want to live in that place of energetic falsehood. I want to live in that place of energetic clarity. And that's the energy that's like almost, again, building new energetic connections by articulating what they don't want, which is a sign of a good manifestation. You articulate what you do want, but you also articulate what you don't want. Masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union. This is a lot of that same energetic experience to a certain extent, because what we're really seeing here for a lot of that energy coming into divine union right now, it feels a little overwhelming, because what happens in the moment that someone holds space for something in the way that you want it to be held, it almost immediately creates that echo chamber of all the spaces and places that didn't do so. So we see even now that for a lot of that energy, there's a lot of that, like, I want to say, like a lot of this energy right now is just throwing themselves into what they're creating with one another, because it's like and I want to stress this too, because this comes up a lot, especially for energy coming into divine union frequency. It's really important that you don't get righteous. It's really important that you don't get righteous. Because even now, I'm seeing that a lot of this overwhelm of the energy and a lot of this insularity occurring here could lead to that moment of, again, sometimes our perception on what we experience from within can sometimes, make something seem, we can look at things, I'll put it this way. Hindsight is not 20/20. Hindsight is a faulty lens, right? Things become sharper sometimes in the past because we're viewing them from the perception of the present. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy in that modality, not becoming so like energetically connected to a certain extent, that you start looking at anything outside that energetic connection as like something that is like outside or separate of it. Like that's really important too, because we see even now like that could lead to a lot of that like frustration in feeling like the energy around you, especially with this heaviness, like, you know, it's like it creates that like us, them kind of thing. Like, you know what, you want to avoid that right now. You know, I'm not surprised to see this type of energy in this season, right? Like just coming into that state of compassion and realizing that everyone is doing the best that they can at every moment will effectively energetically help with any of those feelings today, right? While for masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, I think that's a little bit energetically easier to ascertain or recognize. But the problem or the circumstances around this is you're doing a better job unpacking that some of the energy, like, you know, in other spaces and places, because I see even now that for a lot of that energy in the divine union frequency, that sense of really like allowing yourself to like confront your own wounds, that's hard. Like it's not something that is that others, like it's not something that others easily do, and it requires, sometimes it requires that ability of having that energetic like sense of self or the presence or the security of the other to be able to do so. So we see even now like that can almost feel like it's building deeper into the heart of intimacy, because that's that moment that you're going even deeper into an energetic wound with that energy that is the exception to the rule, right? And that's not the energy that like feels like it's doing it for you, or you're not doing it on their behalf, but it's just feeling the sense that you're doing it energetically together, that can sometimes feel kind of indescribable or hard to put into words. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Four of Wands and its reversal and our Hangman energy. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Page of Pentacles in its reversal, right? Because this is what we experience when we have these moments of doubts, of fears, of anxieties coming into play to a certain extent. We just see it here, right? A lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, navigating those feelings of that anxiety of not being energetically good enough. Where does the ego take shape? It takes shape in the space of shame. It takes shape in the space of feeling like we have failed something energetically, right? So we see even now that like a lot of this energy is like confronting that aspect of self. That's hard work, right? Because that's that moment that you look and you what happens when you push through that moment of feeling that protectiveness, that moment. It's like you find that like little part of yourself that didn't feel like they were energetically good enough, right? That took someone else's wounds and scars personally, right? And so we see even now that a lot of that energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, they're almost building forth by revealing those parts of each other to one another, right? And what is that energy doing at this time to be able to heal that? It's almost that moment of looking to someone and saying, like, you know, that wasn't your fault, right? You know, that wasn't a moment that you didn't bring that forward. That was something that energetically happened to or around you, right? And at that moment of understanding, it doesn't mean that you can't carry it anymore, but that's that moment that that softness comes into play, because it allows you to hold it in a way that you haven't held it before, right? Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. You're holding something for another, not the way you would typically hold something. And it's hard. It's hard, but that's the gift to a certain extent that we do for one another. And these energies are almost saying to one another, the commitment that they hold to a certain extent to each other is saying like, it's not easy, but I'd hold it in this way for you indefinitely. I will carry that with you. I will carry this with me as far as we need to go. And hopefully one day we can adjust that and modify it, but it is not an energetic burden. It is a burden in the sense that I would gladly choose to carry that, because now that is my energetic priority. So even now, these energies experiencing those moments that may have felt like they were like, I want to say, these could be moments of someone being like, this insecurity, like this is like what caused like a fracture point in the past. This is what caused a wound. This is like what just like ruined something, or this is what hurt something. And that moment of someone saying, I can hold that, I can carry that, that's not too energetically heavy. Like that becomes that moment that almost feels like that act or that point of healing, right? Because that's that moment that immediate, but also can feel very like almost wounding in the process of experiencing it, because it reminds you of the moment that the hurt or the wound happened in the first place. Like the space that caused it in the moment that someone wasn't able to do so. While for masculine and feminine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, that is in separation right now, these are energies right now that are building new energetic connections by talking about those moments. This is what I mean by that authenticity. A lot of this authenticity, just energy being very, very energetically honest about why they are in effectively what you would identify as separation. This isn't the energy that's like saying, it's like, that's like deflecting or being like, I don't want to talk about something here. This is energy that's like, like almost the energy says like, I blame myself. I know what I should have done. I know what I shouldn't have done, right? That's that energy that almost is like leading forth with the energetic lesson that they learned from the past experience that is helping recognize that sense of alignment, right? And a lot of that, it feels very, I want to say, it feels a little like difficult, because this is energy that's like not putting on any kind of charade or something to another person. You know what I mean? They're not coming towards someone and being like, yeah, I'm energetically perfect, I don't know what happened. They were like, this is energy that's like, I see my energetic part in something. I recognize what I understand it too. And that energy is doing that work and parsing the difference between what was theirs and what was theirs that they experienced. And even now, these energies having the ability to do that is what feels like it's creating the bond in relationality to feeling that excitement, because that's the ability of seeing someone who thinks the way you think that immediately makes you feel like having that point of being like, you carry something the same way that I carry something. When something doesn't work, you don't just push it outside the self. You do that act of introspection, that act of consideration. You also don't take all of the energetic blame. You do that path work of trying to figure out the locationality of what exists outside the self that it needs to be moved away from versus what can be changed within the self that can be healed. Final card for today's spread, between our Three of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Page of Pentacles in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now. We love this. We've got here our High Priestess. Masculine and feminine energy right now. In separation. What's really beautiful about this energy right now is a lot of this feminine energy. Even if these are new energetic connections that are happening right now. A lot of that slowness, a lot of that consideration point. And this is what's really beautiful for a lot of this feminine energy and separation. I just see that this feminine energy is just moving in that modality of just being I want to say, this is feminine energy and separation that's almost taking a take it or leave it approach to energetic connection. That's the best way I can explain it. This is feminine energy that's almost in that modality now of kind of sitting and holding that energetic pose to a certain extent, in terms of saying to themselves, they've come into that point of pathwork. They're aligning with their higher self to such an extent that they're like, if I find something energetically, that would be wonderful, but better for me to stay in alignment than to move into something that would bring me out of energetic alignment. Like, this is the feminine energy that is prioritizing the partnerships or the energetic connections that allow the feminine energy to be their highest aspiration of self. And that prioritization point is the moment that for a lot of the feminine energy feels like that is the reason a lot of this energy right now feels that sense of energetic excitement, even if there's a moment of moving into new energetic connections. It's because that approach of looking, that perception of seeing something in that way. This isn't the feminine energy that feels to a certain extent like they need to change themselves to be in partnership or union right now. This is a feminine energy that says, I am going to become my most fully embodied version of self to find the energetic counterpart that is best for me. And and the energetic counterpart will not require me to feel like I need to adapt or I need to change or I need to adjust. The correct energetic counterpart for me will be in a point of seeing me in that version of my highest version of self, and they will want to be energetically near me. That's what we mean by alignment. While for masculine energy, this is the masculine energy in separation, saying to themselves and doing your own path work here. If this is masculine saying, if I want to be in alignment with the feminine that is fully embracing themselves, that is fully confident with their own self, that's not the feminine energy. Like that is a moment the masculine saying, I need to be my fullest expression of self. I need to be my most authentic version of self. Feminine is a mirror. What I desire, the feminine I will also bring out in the feminine. So both of these energies working into that space or place of trying to find that point of energetic authenticity, to be able to find the alignment and saying, I need to become my best version of self. So that way the person that is for me energetically, that's aligned for me, will be able to see me in that modality. That is how we will recognize each other. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, that ability of bringing that out in one another is that energetic gift. And that moment that you feel to a certain extent is almost that point that feels like that observational point in recognizing and understanding something to a certain degree, wherein you're identifying and recognizing that, what happens when you're in those connectivity points of moving into alignment with your highest version of self. That's that moment or that opportunity of feeling that moment of energetic compassion, because we see even now, this is the feminine. If this is the feminine that has those insecurities, because nobody's energetically perfect, but this is feminine that feels the masculine, even in the expression of the insecurity, saying, I don't see that that's a problem at all. I don't recognize, like, that's almost a masculine looking at the feminine and saying, I think that if you have this is literally the masculine almost saying, like, this is almost masculine saying to feminine right now coming into divine union, like, it seems to me that your only failure point is that you hold yourself too high an energetic standard. You hold yourself to too high an energetic standard. And that is that moment that almost feels like that breakthrough point, because for the feminine to feel like that masculine looking at the feminine, even that moment of the insecurity, and saying to the feminine, I think that you set that incredibly high bar for yourself, and that's why you have those insecurities. And I feel like you're navigating. And look, what is the masculine saying to feminine? I don't even think so. I don't even think you created that insecurity in yourself. This is almost a masculine looking to feminine. If there's that moments and saying, who told you that was a problem? Who told you that was something that you should be feeling insecure about? Who told you that was something that was a negative, right? Because that's suddenly the masculine already beginning a little bit of that energetic work of healing, right? And that's not the feminine masculine saying, like, this is the masculine almost working as the clear mirror to the feminine, being like, masculine almost again picking up and being like, this isn't something that was within her. This is something that someone said to her once. This is something that they experienced once. There's something that left that wound that I'm now carrying, right? So this is the masculine almost helping the feminine on that path of saying and realizing and saying, this isn't yours to carry. This is something that you are carrying for someone else who is holding an insecurity about that within themselves, right? Like that's almost the masculine seeing the healed masculine energy, seeing the unhealed masculine energy that caused a wound in the feminine, right? Like masculine looking, being like, sounds to me like something in your insecurity. This is almost masculine saying your insecurity sounds like something an insecure masculine would say, right? While for feminine energy right now, having that modality of a masculine, but again, doesn't take that insecurity personally, but almost navigates it in a way. Almost says, that doesn't sound like a you problem. It sounds like it was a problem someone else had because they were intimidated by you. Like they weren't able to match you. So it was that moment that they had to pick apart. Like when you can't match someone, when you feel like you can't energetically match someone, you'll try to pick them apart energetically to have them come down to your level, right? But even now that sense of the feminine recognizing or feeling that to a certain extent, that is that moment that the feminine even more so comes back into their own alignment to a certain degree, because that's the feminine coming into that moment of, again, building that sense of seeing something in a clearer way because of their connection with the healed masculine energy. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is both of these energies navigating that pathwork of the past experiences that may have caused these wounds in the first place. And for masculine as well, if this was spaces and places where those wounds were caused that came from insecurity, came from rejection, came from some early version of masculine moving towards feminine and feeling that sense of being like pushed away or rejected, a lot of that insecurity coming forth to a certain extent. This is the feminine energy in the divine union frequency that's helping the masculine energy see and understand and say, if there's energy that like built that sense of like rejection in you, that wasn't your fault. That was cruel energy. Like you dealt with something that was energetically cruel, and you took that burden on yourself. That created that insecurity. While for masculine, that's exactly the same thing that they're saying, except the difference, again, working through that for the feminine, is the feminine, masculine almost helping the feminine recognize those spaces and places that you doubted yourself, made you more adaptable towards some of the energy around you that didn't necessarily care so much about you becoming your best version of self so much as becoming what they aspired or desired you to be. So we see even now a lot of this energy doing that deep energetic, like this is some deep healing, maybe even some childhood stuff here, like going back really far to say, like, when did you feel that? Like, when do we need to unpack this? How far does this have to go, right? But that ability is almost allowing for that sense of energetic breakthrough. Particularly right now, a little bit more, I gotta stress here, a little bit more difficult right now for the masculine energy because there's a lot of emotionality here and still a lot of defensiveness. A little bit easier for the feminine right now, right? Both of these energies helping each other along the way. Bottom of the deck on this reading today, there he is. We got here Emperor energy. Why is this bad boy on the bottom of the deck? Why is the Emperor on the bottom of the deck? Because this is really hard path work for masculine energy. Bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Masculine is working through healing the construct or healing the idea that in order to be energetically strong, they can't be energetically vulnerable. This is happening like on a big scale right now across all the frequencies. Masculine is working through even the healed masculine energy. Even the healed masculine energy is working through that moment or that opportunity in the experiences of the past or the construct that they were given that told them that in order to be strong, they could not energetically feel anything. That the sign and the aspiration of being strong meant energetic, like not feeling anything energetically. So we see even now this is hard path work for masculine, because this is masculine that's feeling these moments or these feelings that make you feel insecure, make you feel shame, make you feel vulnerable, right? These are feelings that you're almost not ascribing to the feeling of strength. Being able to energetically hold something What is the sign of strength? Being able to hold something that is hard to hold. It doesn't just mean something heavy tangibly. It means in any construct. In any construct, if you have the capacity to hold something that is hard to energetically hold, that is a sign of strength. So if you're masculine energy that's struggling through that feeling and saying, this does not feel strong, this makes me feel emotional, this makes me feel weak, I want you to remember your ability to be strong is not how you feel. Your ability to be strong is how you carry something that is hard to carry. Feminine energy, working through this with the masculine energy as well, across all of the frequencies. That is our daily collective read for today. I'd like to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website, so I encourage you to do it there. Also, just a quick update, if you haven't heard, we are now offering a tarot class program. Each month, we are focusing on a new card and aspect of the tarot. Last month, we focused our studies on the Fool. This month, we will be focusing on the first card in the tarot, the Magician. That next class is on Wednesday, May 15th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. All you need to do to become a part of that class is become a paid subscriber to my Substack. Your subscription will include access to every month's live classes, as well as if you've missed the previous classes, no you haven't, because you'll also have access to all of the recordings and course materials for those previous classes. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students where you can ask any questions in relation to anything that we are studying or anything in relation to your own tarot journey. And also, if you become a founding member, included in a discount for the full year subscription to the classes, you will also receive a free one-on-one mentorship reading with me, wherein we will assess and recognize where you are on your own particular tarot journey, and I'll give you any insights to help you utilize those classes to the best of your advantage and to help you as you continue forward. One of the things I appreciate about these classes is I tried to build them in such a way that they'll be useful to both the absolute novice tarot practitioner as well as the seasoned reader. So there's a little bit of something for everyone. Thank you to everybody who's already become a part of those classes, and I look forward to seeing you potentially at our next class. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me over there where you can stay up to date with any new courses, experiences that we may be putting together. I want to make sure that we're able to find each other regardless of what happens in the world. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing your energy with the collective. And we will do this again tomorrow.